Hello, my name is Keshwani. It's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for SAT. We have been solving grammar questions out of this book here, the official SAT study guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problems that we are about to solve are the ones that you will find on page number 601. Please turn to it. Page 601, and today is our lesson number 18. There are 18 of these questions. There are 18 of these questions beginning with number 12 and ending with number 29. There are 18 of them, which tells us that the scale of difficulty goes from 18 to 29, which means the first 6 are easy, the middle 6 are going to be medium, and the last 6 are hard, which means the problems that we see on the first page, page 601, they are all easy questions. As we turn the page on page 602, in the first column we will find the medium questions, in the second column we'll come across the hard ones. These are all mediums, the ones that we are about to do. Number 1. 14 years after the Galileo space probe was launched from the space shuttle Atlantis, the mission we are told was purposely ended when the Galileo disintegrates. As you can see, it's very straightforward, very simple. It's in the past tense. The mission was ended. Mission was ended. It should say, why was it ended? Because it disintegrated, not disintegrates. This is written in the present tense. It has to be disintegrated. That's all. It's in the wrong tense. It was in the wrong tense. If the sentence starts out in the past tense, it must remain in the past tense. That's all. Number 2. Like I said, they're very straightforward. They're simple because these are easy questions. The labor union is Let's tell you what, before we do the next one, before we do number 13, let's do this one. Tomorrow I will eat, will dance, and will sleep. Is this sentence okay? Do you like this sentence? Is it okay, or does it need fixing? Of course it needs fixing, and the part that needs fixing here is this auxiliary verb. Once we have mentioned it once in the sentence, it does not need to be repeated. We do not have to go around saying I will sleep, I will eat, or I will sleep, will eat, will dance, will jog, will shout. We do not have to keep repeating the word will. Tomorrow I will eat, dance, and sleep. In other words, this will that we see there belongs to this guy, belongs to this guy, and it belongs to this guy. It belongs to all the verbs. This is called the auxiliary verb. It belongs everywhere. And that auxiliary verb does not need to be repeated. It's only mentioned once at the beginning. That's what's wrong with this sentence. Now let's do the ones we've given to us. It says the labor union is negotiating a contract. Now if that were the end of the sentence, it's negotiating a contract with the hospital If that were the end of the sentence, labor union is negotiating a contract with the hospital. End of the sentence. There is nothing wrong with this sentence. Labor union is negotiating a contract with the hospital. There is nothing wrong with it, which tells us that A is not the answer. We do not know what the answer is, but it's not A. That will satisfy the demands of the workers that will satisfy the demands of the worker. Now, if this were the end of the sentence, what will we do with this sentence? The labor union is negotiating a contract with the hospital that will satisfy the demands of the workers. There is nothing wrong with it, which tells us that the answer is not B and the answer is not C. We do not know what the answer is, but it's not B or C. It's got to be either D, if something is wrong with D, or no error at all. Let's look at the rest of it. That will satisfy the demands of the workers and be acceptable to management. The part that the kids that sometimes have trouble is seeing this part, be acceptable. It is because of this reason that we did the previous example. We have two things going here, and this will that we see here belongs to not the first part, satisfy the demands of the worker, but also the second part. In other words, if you were to leave everything out now, cross all of this out here, that will satisfy the demands of the worker. If you cross out that part, now it reads like this. It reads like this. The labor union is negotiating a contract with the hospital that will be acceptable to management. They are negotiating a contract that will be acceptable to management. This sentence is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. This will that we see here belongs to both parts. The part that talks about the labor union and the part that talks about the management. This auxiliary verb belongs to both of them, and therefore it's fine. The answer is E. There is nothing wrong with this sentence. Let's go on to the next one, number 14. Number 14. Many professional athletes are motivated by either personal pride and love. Now, as I always remind you, when we come across this particular type of question, notice how I said it, this particular type, not these, this particular type of questions, as I always remind you, not to get too excited, because in the entire exam you will come across only one question like this, which is the gift by the College Board, by the ETS, the Educational Testing Service, who give you the exam. In the entire exam, in the writing portion of the exam, that is, they give you a gift, only one questions, where the test this idiom of either or neither nor. So there aren't too many of them. You're not going to find 6 of these questions, only one. This is one of those. This is it. This is the one. In this exam, this is the one. Athletes are motivated by either personal pride or love. That's it. The idiom is either this or that. They are motivated by either this or that, not either this and that. That's all. The answer is B. The answer is B. Next one, number 15. So either or neither nor, one question in the entire exam. Even though only parts of the clay vessels may be recovered, these shards are these shards are invaluable to the archaeologists because it is indestructible. Okay, now one more time. Even though only parts of the clay vessels may be recovered, now if you look at only that expression, forget about the rest of the sentence, only concentrate on that portion of the sentence, the beginning portion, the phrase, even though only parts of the clay vessels may be recovered, there is nothing wrong with that part. It doesn't matter how the sentence is going to finish. That part in itself, there is nothing wrong with it. That tells us the answer, we don't know what the answer is, but it's not A or B. These shards, plural. Remember, notice this is the subject of the sentence. Subject of the sentence here is these, plural. These shards are invaluable to the archaeologists. Why? Because we're talking about shards. Because if you take out this part, if you take out the middle part here, it reads, the way it's written here, it says, these shards is indestructible. These shards is indestructible. No, because they are indestructible. The subject of the sentence is plural, therefore the verb must agree with the subject. The form of the verb must agree with the subject. The verb has to be in the plural form. These shards are invaluable because they are indestructible. That's all. By the way, what does the word invaluable mean? Invaluable means extremely valuable. It's the eccentricity of the English language. These are the quirks of the English language. Inflammable means to be extremely flammable. Invaluable means to be extremely valuable, and so on and so forth. There are many examples like that. I can't think of any right now. But if someone describes something as inflammable, it means it's flammable. If someone describes something as invaluable, it doesn't mean that it has no value. It means it is extremely valuable. These shards are extremely valuable to the archaeologists because of the fact that they are indestructible. They, shards. Number 16. Along the curves of the islands known as Florida Keys lies a reef of living coral. Now, if that were the end of the sentence, ask yourself, what's wrong with it? Along the curves of the island lies along the curves of the islands known as Florida Keys lies a reef of living coral. If that were the end of the sentence, how would we fix it? The answer is, we wouldn't fix it. This is a perfectly fine sentence. Along the coast of the island, known as the Florida Key, lies a living coral. It's fine. Which tells us we do not know what the answer is, but it is not A and it is not B. Answer is not A or B. Let's keep on going. The only one of a kind. Not the only one of a kind, but the only one of its kind. The idiom here is, this is the very last one, the idioms. The idiom here is that it is only one of its kind. You understand? I think you should buy this particular car. It is the only one of a kind. You wouldn't say it is the only one of a kind. It's the only one of its kind. Yes. That guitar that you saw the other day is extremely invaluable. It's the only one of its kind. It's the only one of its kind. It's the only surviving one of its kind. It's very rare. The only one of its kind. This has to be changed to its. It's the only one of its kind. The answer is D. Number 17. Marshall, whose Barbadian background, he comes from a place called Barbados, and people of Barbados are called Barbadians, not barbarians, Barbadians. A lot of the times I've heard people misread this word. It's Barbadian. Paul, whose Barbadian background has influenced her writing, describes many details of life in the Caribbean islands vividly in her novels and short stories. Paul, describes many details of the life in the Caribbean islands vividly. In her novels and short stories. So she describes many details of the life in the Caribbean island vividly in her novels and short stories. There is nothing wrong with this sentence. It's fine. And the first part that and the middle part that I left out, which is whose Barbadian background has influenced her writing, is also fine. The answer here is E. There is nothing wrong with this sentence. Number 18. Because he is absent when his rivals, what did the rivals do? They voted. What did they do? His rivals voted. It's the past tense. This has to do with tenses. Number 2 on the list. It has to do with tenses. These are the seven things that we look for, because these are the 7 most common errors that the College Board looks for. These are the 7 most common errors that appear on the writing portion of the exam and the grammar questions. Here we're talking about improper tense. If the sentence is in past tense, it has to remain in the past tense, because when he was absent when his rivals voted. When his rivals voted. When did they vote it? When he was absent. We wouldn't go around saying when did they vote? When did they vote? Did I say when did they vote it? I didn't mean to say that. When did they vote? When he was absent. When did they vote? Past tense, you see. They voted when? When he was absent. He was absent. Next one. So the answer here is A. The very last one. In those cities in which public transportation is adequate, fewer traffic problems occur and pedestrians are rarely involved in the accidents. In those cities in which, now this may sound awkward to you the way it's written, but that's not the point here. The point here is not whether or not it sounds awkward to you. The point is, does it violate any rules of standard written English? To which the answer is no. As far as the grammar is concerned, it's perfectly fine the way it starts out. It's perfectly fine the way it starts out. In those cities in which public transportation is adequate, fewer accidents occur. And if this were the end of the sentence, it's fine. In those cities in which adequate public transportation is adequate, fewer accidents occur. I was about to read it as, in those cities in which public transportation is adequate. The way I was about to read was that in those cities in which adequate public transportation is present, same thing, in which adequate public transportation is present or public transportation is adequate, fewer accidents occur. It's fine. Which tells us that the answer is not A, answer is not B. Let's keep on going. And pedestrian are rarely involved in accidents are really involved, which is fine. Involved in, they're really involved in accidents. It's fine. The answer is E. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this sentence, even if it sounds a little awkward to us. In those cities in which adequate public transportation is present, fewer accidents occur, and pedestrians are rarely involved in accidents. I think I messed it up a little bit, but you get the idea. Fewer traffic problems occur. They say fewer traffic problems occur because I just realized that they wouldn't repeat the word. They wouldn't repeat this word. That's how I caught myself. It says fewer, whatever it is that occurs. Fewer traffic problems, they say. Obviously, as soon as I read this part, I caught myself that they wouldn't go around repeating the words. That would sound really, really awkward. So here they're talking about some sort of a problem. Fewer traffic problems. Fewer traffic problems occur. Same thing. But as far as the grammar is concerned, there is nothing wrong with it. Before I end today's lesson, let's talk about one word in this sentence, and that one word is this word right there. This is a digression. I'm turning into a vocabulary lesson. Here's what I want you to do. Always a good idea to make sure I spell it correctly. Pedestrian is the word. I want you to learn this word properly. This word, the fact that I'm making a big fuss about it right now, there must be a reason for it. This word is something that we learn in our vocabulary lesson, in our vocabulary lessons on day number, pedestrian. Just give me 1 second. I'm looking at the list in the list of words here. In P, particular, predominant. I should have done this ahead of time, but obviously this was not premeditated. Day number 13. Just type in SAT vocabulary words, day 13, watch that video, and you will see that you will learn this word pedestrian and many more interesting and useful words that will help you improve your vocabulary, that will help you get a better score in the writing portion of the exam. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.